Okay, so we are here at the metadata finally, and you can see this is the totals that we've got. Okay, right now this week I should say there were 3,879 games played, and there were 754 players. This is what we would call a normal weekend. I'd say busy week, normal to busy, a busy-ish weekend. Very busy weekends tend to have sort of 900 to 1,000 players. Quiet weekends tend to be sort of sub 600 players. So this is it's pretty average, but we've maybe on the top end of average. Yeah. Now the fact started off at the bottom. We have got Chaos Knights. Whoa. Faction that has really been suffering since the release of Pariah Nexus. Which is interesting because you'd think that with Knights getting this ability to walk over ruins and everything, that they would be doing much better. But it turns out that Chaos Knights ain't doing too buku. I don't really understand why Chaos Knights have suddenly fallen through the floor. It doesn't seem like anything major has changed. Not any major nerfs have been applied to their faction. I suspect what that must reflect is a change in the wider meta in general. I have to say personally, as a guard player, I've never really struggled into Chaos Knights. Especially with guard, especially with my guard into their war dog spam. Now the only thing that I could think of that might explain why Chaos Knights aren't doing as well is if everyone has been war dog spamming, they've seen the big rule, they've seen the rule that makes big knights better, they've tried taking big knights, and then they're like, these are shit. So I wonder if what I hypothesize, what my theory is, that the big knights for Chaos Knights, the bigger knights are a trap. And a lot of people are trying them out and are getting filled in. That's my guess. Either that, or as a general rule, people are starting to bring more. There could be a couple of other reasons for this. Okay. A couple of other big things that could affect it. Firstly, people might finally be getting to that point where they're bringing enough anti-tank. I mean, I've been seeing, Sisters of Battle, right? Very, very good faction at the moment, and they bring an ungodly amount of anti-tank. And so you've got factions that might be bringing more, just naturally the meta is adapting to just having more AT. The other big thing you might be seeing is the rise of things like World Eaters and stuff, and other factions that get really good melee. Because Chaos Knights and Knights in general, they really don't like melee armies because they don't get their invulnerable saves in close combat. And so suddenly losing that vulnerable save, you look at a baby knight and you're like, you're only T10, you got like 12 wounds or something, 3-up save. Right now, some of the hottest factions out there, Blood Angels, they'll punch knights to death left, right, and center. Sisters, they'll melt knights to death left, right, and center. And we're starting to see World Eaters on the rise as well. Just in terms of popularity, like you always see them at tournaments, and they're going to cut through them as well. So my suspicion is not necessarily that Chaos Knights have suddenly gone shit. It might be there's a few traps that they're falling into. And it might be that there are other factions on the warpath right now which they're struggling to handle. Another good example, as Garsman13 said, what about Custodes? Custodes are an army that will run up to some war dogs and just tear them to pieces because they're a combat army, right? And considering that they had 23 players, so go through the night stats, 41% win rate, which is down 6% over their average. 23 players who won 48 out of 117 games. Out of those 23 players, one person went 4-1. That means that remaining 22 players went 3-2 or worse. That ain't good. That ain't good at all. But then we get to a surprise, to be sure. We've got the Astra Militarum, the Imperial Guard, his Imperial Guard, the Emperor's true finest, second from bottom? What's going on? What's going on? Apparently we only have a 42% win rate, 5% down from our average of 47% win rate. Apparently Deathwatch are now better than us. What's going on? What's going on? Well, let me tell you, my little chickadees, don't panic. This is exactly what I said would happen. Call the black ships. Call the black ships. I'm clearly a psyker, or maybe I've got some pattern recognition, but clearly I'm a psyker, all right? Because did I not say that our win rate would tank last week and then it would start going up again later? It's going to plummet for a couple of weeks, but then it'll start going up, all right? The guard win rate does this. And there is an explanation for why it does this. So, there are a lot of people out there that have guard as an army, or maybe it's a primary army, maybe it's a secondary army. And a lot of these people will when they hear that guard is doing well or guard is doing good, they'll be like, "Oh, cool! I'll just take my guard army to a tournament." But the problem is, as I've always said, Guard are a very much experience-based faction. And this could be said for a lot of factions, but I always find Guard are a really good example of this. If you take your Guard into a tournament and you play a faction you've probably not encountered before or not encountered in a while, there's a really good chance that you're going to lose. To this day, I still lose the first game that I tend to play against a new faction, or a new meta for that faction, or the first time I'm playing that faction, a new edition. You have to remember, you have to lose your first 10 games as Guard, and then you start winning them. And so what we've seen here is a big influx in players. 37 players is a lot of players. It's a lot of players. I mean, if we go just sort of scrolling up, puts us in a similar league to Space Marines and Tyranids, who are starter box factions. You know, we've got more people than Tau. You know, we're definitely one of. We're not the most popular faction, but we're in the top 8 of faction popularity. I'm just eyeballing that one. Okay, mark one eyeball. So we've got a lot of players, and so what we've got is a lot of people who are jumping on the Guard train, jumping on the Guard hype train. They've seen some of the really strong results that have been coming in, but unfortunately they haven't lost their 10 games yet. They haven't got that experience yet, and so the win rate is going to plummet, because you've got a lot of people who are going to turn to a tournament. You know, maybe. I don't want to say they're presuming they're going to go like 5-0 something crazy. They're just going to be like, "Oh, I've heard Guard are strong again. Well, I'll bring my Guard out." This was the list that I used to use. They haven't updated it. That's the thing with Guard. You've got to keep on the meta with Guard, because we've got so many data sheets. You know, we've got like people will go to a tournament and they'll be like, "Oh, well, Manticores are fine for artillery, right?" It's like, no, you need Basilisks now. But Manticores were good at the beginning of 10th. Yeah, but you need Basilisks now. You see what I mean? So what I think we'll find is we've got a lot of more people who are jumping in, who maybe haven't got their collections 100% optimized. Maybe a lot of people who haven't got their experience under their belt yet with them, or they're just losing their first 10 games, and the win rate is starting to plummet. What I would advise you all to look at is this. So this is the win rate. This is the number of players who went 4-1 or better. Who basically won every game or only lost one game. Went 4-1 or better. 3 of them went 4-1 or 5-1, and two of them won tournament. A faction that is in the bottom 3 for win rates just won 2 tournaments. That's because these people here, they're the veterans. They're the ones that they've lost their first 10 games. They're the ones that haven't just jumped on the Guard hype train, jumped on the Guard bandwagon. They're the ones that have got the collections that are deep enough. They've got the lists that are working. They're the ones that are well practiced. They're well experienced. So that's why you get this paradox. That's why you get this dichotomy. That's why you get this yin and yang of a terrible low win rate combined with a surprisingly high rate of people that are doing very well. I mean, let's have a quick look at the 2 tournaments that we won. Were they small ones? Were they big ones? Well, actually, they were pretty reasonably sized tournaments. 60-player tournament, 6 rounds at Texas. That's a solid GT. That's a big-ish GT right there. And then we also had someone win with Guard, 6 rounds, 100-player event. That's a major. That's a major right there. Guard going 4-1. How many? Is it just the one Guard player at the Super Major in the top? There you go. In the Sheffield GT, top Guard player went 4-1. Went 18th out of 200 people. That's not bad. Guard appearing here, 5-1, 5-1. That's another major right there. Loads and loads of good Guard results coming in. Loads and loads of good Guard results coming in. What I think this shows, I think for the everyman on the street, it's a tricky army. But I think for the people that commit to that competitive Guard lifestyle, we're eating good. We definitely have some viable builds. We definitely have some viable play. I think what it is, I think it comes down to experience more than anything else. Guard is definitely an army that you can play. You can play around some flaws, but it takes experience and it takes practice. But overall, it's a bit of a mixed bag, but I feel positive for the future. So Deathwatch, they're not in a good place. 43% win rate. The big problem is only 4 players. 4 players is bad. 4 players is real bad. It's not even like 1%. Not even 1% of the player base. My math isn't great, but it feels like it's 0.5% of people that took armies to tournaments chose to take Deathwatch. Deathwatch, there were 3 players went for the Black Spear Task Force. 1 guy went for the Gladiator Task Force, but it doesn't seem to have really made a huge difference. What really annoys me about Deathwatch is their win rate is so low, their player numbers are so low, and yet we have evidence staring right in front of us that if you give a faction some love, and I know we're skipping ahead here a bit, if you give a faction some love, like Admech, we can see nature is healing. We can see that if GW addresses problems, the community responds positively. For whatever reason, they've decided that Deathwatch players need to suffer. If suffering is good for the soul, then every single person that's playing Deathwatch competitively right now has earned they've earned their place by the Emperor's side. The Leagues of Cheese, the Leagues of Votann. All right. So Votann right now are on a 43% win rate. They had very, very few people manage to go 4-1. And this is in the face of the fact they've got a relatively decent number of players. This is a huge drop in output from the Votann. Now, it's always important to be cautious to draw too many conclusions to what very well may have just been a bad week. That's it. It may well have just been a bad week. But we do know that the meta is shifting. We do know that we're in a new season, a new epoch of 10th edition. And maybe, like with the Chaos Knights, this is the world shifting around the Votann. And we have noticed with this faction in the past, in the couple of years that they've been around, that they are particularly susceptible to meta changes. And the reason they are particularly susceptible to the meta changes is because they have a very limited number of models. They really need that second wave. Like Genestealer Cult back in 8th edition, who got 2 big waves of models. Votann are crying out for another wave. And I'm not talking like 1 or 2 extra models. Genuinely think Votann need to double the number of data sheets. Or they need another dozen data sheets. We need to see a lot more. We need to see a lot more variety with this faction, and if we see that, then they will be insulated somewhat. They'll have more tools in the toolbox. They'll have more areas they can turn to try and insulate against these meta changes. Like I said, it very well could be just a glitch in the system. But I would keep an eye on Votann. Now, normally when I say keep an eye on a faction, I'm like, keep an eye on them because they're going up. This time, I think we keep a wary eye on them. Because they might be going down. They might be going down. Next, we have Genestealer Cult. Oh, no. Look how they massacred my boys! Why, GW, why? So I'm gonna come out and say it, right? I'm gonna come out and say it. You can... I'm turning around. I don't have 3 arms. So I've not been infiltrated, okay? I think the Genestealer Cult have had one of the most flavorful codexes out there. I think the way each detachment works feels very... just feels very flavorful. You get a good feeling from most of the detachments. And you can see that reflected in the fact that all of the different detachments, despite the fact there's only 13 GSC players, all of the different detachments are being represented this week, which is cool. It's really cool. I think the problem with the GSC codex is that it's very
reporting for duty, sir.
It's very cool, but it ain't got much power. I've been playing around with some Brood Brother lists, and I still haven't found the sweet spot yet. I don't seem to quite be able to get everything that I want. But just the idea of being able to bring the Brood Brothers is something that I'm interested in doing. I definitely want to try it out for a battle report sometime. I think overall, a big issue that we may see with Genestealer Cult is there doesn't really seem to be the community there to rally round and to try and find something that works with them. But yeah, I hope that they don't fade into obscurity, because they are cool. But I can't tell you the last time I saw them at a tournament. Next up, we've got the good old-fashioned Space Marines. Space Marines, we have got 44% win rate here, which is not great for them as a faction. And it's fine. It's not great, not terrible. But they did have 5 people that went undefeated or went 5-0, or 5-1, I should say. So no one went undefeated, because that would mean they would have won a tournament. So we had 5 people that went 4-1. Or X-1, we should say. There's 41 players. That's a really, really, really solid number of players. And what I find most interesting about this is Ironstorm Spearhead, the detachment that has supposedly been taken round the back of the chemical sheds and bloody photoshopped out of all existing photographs, actually was the most successful. So apparently there's still some play there. I don't know what it is. Maybe at the end of the day, just getting a shitload of... Maybe at the end of the day, just getting loads of baked-in fucking rerolls and stuff. They had 9 people playing it. It was the second most popular detachment. Firestorm Assault Force seems to just be sort of staying level. We've got a 45% win rate versus a 46% average. Gladius Task Force. Oh, baby. The new hotness. So Gladius Task Force had a 43% win rate, and it had 2 people do quite well with it. But it only had... And it was the most popular with 14 players. I suspect that maybe the Gladius Task Force is suffering a bit in the same way as Guard, where a lot of people are jumping on it, but they've not quite found their sea legs with it yet. The other detachments, Vanguard Spearhead seems to have some popularity, although doesn't seem to be moving the needle all that much. Stormlance guy got a friend, and apparently Jez, Anvil Siege Force guy, got a friend as well. Yeah, not seeing much any real results from these, because really, if you're going to take Stormlance, you're going to do it as Space Force, right? And then Anvil Siege Force apparently is just dog shit, supposedly. So, but Gladius, we are seeing the new Marine meta consolidate around Gladius, but maybe the Iron Storm isn't dead just yet. So, Tyranids! Oh, baby. I love myself some space bugs, and Tyranids have had a little bit of a dip. A couple of weeks ago, well, with the balanced data slate and Pariah Nexus and everything, we saw a bit of a resurgence with Tyranids. We saw the win rate starting to go up. We saw Tyranids starting to get some good results, and things seem to have slowed down. I'm not saying Tyranids are bad, and I think maybe this is just a little breather before the NID starts surging again. But 44% win rate is 3% lower than their average. They did have 5 people that went 4-1, but no one went undefeated and won a tournament. But look at those Tyranid numbers, man. That has to be the first time in a long time when I have seen such healthy Tyranid numbers, and I love to see it. I love to see it. It's great to see Tyranids and hitting the tables again. It's great. Yeah, it's really, really great. Tyranids aren't quite as strong as we suspected. Maybe they're just catching their breath. But seeing so many people playing them definitely warms my heart. Now, diving into the different detachments, Synaptic Nexus seems to be the new hotness. I know someone, so one of the guys that I went to Adepticon with is a very good player, a chap called Mike. He was running Tyranids at the Shark Tank that I was at this weekend, and he was running Synaptic Nexus. So, and he is a power gamer. He is an absolute power gamer. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. You know, I got a lot of time for him, a lot of respect for him. He's a better player than I am. And if he's running Synaptic Nexus, it means there's something to it. Yeah. Now, 59% win rate, 2 people going 4-1. That is significantly higher than the average of 52%. 8 people picking it up, which is not an insignificant amount. However, the 2 most popular detachments are not actually the best performing ones. Vanguard Onslaught making a really good go at it, almost matching Invasion Fleet for in terms of player popularity. But Vanguard Onslaught absolutely smashing Invasion Fleet in terms of results. Despite the fact that Invasion Fleet has been kind of shit and has had a pretty gash win rate for a long time, it remains the most popular Tyranid choice. But I think that it's not been the most meta choice for a while. It's just the comfy pair of slippers. That's what it is. But what I have been told, and I was told that by Synaptic Mike, but I've also been, he told me that Synaptic, he said Synaptic Nexus, that's what he was running, but he told me that Vanguard Onslaught is probably the better detachment. So, which is why I think we're seeing so many people jumping on it. Crusher Stampede seeing a strange resurgence, but apparently, sort of in just existence, just being here, but not too many actual players jumping on it, and not any results really to write home about. Probably the less said, the better. Okay. Then we have Mother fucking Dark Angel. My God, sir. Oh! Now, as someone has played against Dark Angels recently, woo, mama! Woo, baby! Yeah, Dark Angels Gladius Task Force fucks. And I am not surprised to see it doing the rounds in this data. So overall, you might be forgiven in thinking that Dark Angels weren't a particularly worrisome faction with only a 45% win rate. Oh my sweet summer child. They're back. they're back and they are going to start getting some good results. 45% win rate, 5 people going for X and 1 with them. And really healthy numbers. 32 Dark Angels players? That's a massive resurgence. I remember towards the end of Leviathan, you know, 15, 16 Dark Angel players were turning up. Now we're seeing 32. Very, very healthy player numbers. Now we have some outliers here. Like one dude was able to go 3-2 with the Unforgiven Task Force, which is why it looks so high, but it's just an anomalous result. We have, you know, one guy that was able to do something with Company of Hunters. Eyes of Spearhead is still here, but barely anyone's running it. A load of people jumping on the Inner Circle Task Force, but apparently it's only one person managed to make it work. The big one is Gladius Task Force. I played against Kyle and his Dark Angels this weekend, and he said that Gladius Task Force Dark Angels is crap. He loves running big infantry. He traditionally runs lots of Terminators in his Death Guard army, and I know him as like the Death Guard guy, right? He's like one of the Death Guard guys in our meta, in our community. And he is now like, bro, I'm all about them Dark Angel Terminators. In fact, the list he was running, brand new army that he'd basically just been paying up the night before, you know, to the last minute to get it battle ready. I think we're going to see Dark Angels continue to do well. And I think we're going to see the new meta shift away from Ironstorm, and they're definitely going to shift towards Gladius Task Force and a lot of Deathwing Knights. That's the new Dark Angels hotness right now. So Death Guard kind of just trucking along. 46% win rate. Not great, not terrible, but technically in the Goldilocks zone. 3 people managed to go 4-1 with them, but no one won any tournaments, so maybe they're a little anemic, but you know, there's some potential there. Half decent player numbers at 26 players, and an average win rate of 47%, which is kind of in line with this week's win rate. Death Guard just hootling along. I've not seen any major innovations on the Death Guard front. The one thing I would say though is I have started to see a few people moving away from Mortarion and 3 Plague Burst Crawlers, which I think is a natural evolution of the faction, because Mortarion was allowing those PBCs to hit on like 3s, and now he doesn't. Now he just doesn't do anything. Literally, Mortarion just does not work in that combo anymore. So the big question is, I guess the big question I would have is, are Death Guard players going to drop Mortarion? Or are they going to drop Plague Burst Crawlers? Or are they going to drop both? Now, as someone who's never really run Mortarion or Plague Burst Crawlers, one other thing that I think affected Death Guard is Nurgling, the Nurgling nerf, because Nurgling's a 0 OC. So they're going to have to find new ways of getting objectives. But one thing that I personally think would, if Death Guard players are looking for a new area to pivot into, one thing that I would personally suggest is genuinely looking into the Mech Death Guard. Before the recent update, I had some really good success with that, and I'm still intending on maxing out on getting 6 rhinos, and I still fully intend on getting a whole buttload of like predators and stuff for the army. So also, generally speaking, Chaos Vindicators seem quite good. I don't know if Death Guard ones are, but I've played into Chaos Basins a couple of times with Vindicators now, and they've been very, very potent. So yeah, overall, I think Death Guard are in an okay position. I think they're in a pivot right now, and we'll see where they end up. But right now, I agree with Richard Baker. Hashtag #MECHUP. Absolutely. Then we get to the Orcs. I know I say this every time, but my, how the mighty have fallen. Feels like only a month ago, we were about to be engulfed by the green meta. Feels like only a month ago that I was planning my green tide. And now orcs are just mid. 46% win rate is okay. I mean, hell, some factions would kill for 46% win rate, wouldn't they? But it's a very far cry from where they were. 4 players managing to get some juice out of the faction, but no one managing to win a tournament. Good news is that 46% win rate is higher than the average of 42% win rate. So there we are. And we are still seeing very good orc player numbers. Not what they once were. I mean, this is about half of where orcs were at their peak, but we're not seeing like GSC or Deathwatch levels of death. Orcs have sort of just plateaued a bit. Now, in terms of looking into some of the deets here, there are some interesting standouts. I don't know what the fuck's going on with Cult of Speed, but one dude was able to go 4-1 with them. Now, one dude did go 2-3, so it's definitely there's a bit of a margin for error there, but one guy was able to make them work. Yeah. It's probably a very small sample size, though, 2 out of 35, right? Warhorde, the basic index faction. We noticed that Warhorde was getting a bit of traction last week. Really seems to be picking up speed now. 55% win rate. 8 players, so it's not an insignificant sample size. And one person also managed to go 4-1. Maybe after getting their codex, Orcs players are going to be forced to be boring and go back to a basic index faction, which would be a bit tragic in my opinion. Bully Boys, it may not be as good as it was, but it's still popular and we're still seeing people get some results with it. But this is not a 70% win rate, and thank God it's not as well. Green Tide's an interesting one. I think Green Tide, we've had a couple of people run it, and we can see it's sort of... It's 45% this week. It's very much an average. It's 44%. It's very much in line with its average of 44% last week. I think Green Tide is one of those armies that you can go 2-3 or 3-2 at a tournament. If you take Green Tide to a GT or an RTT, you've got to come away with a win under your belt. Yeah. You've got to come away with at least one win on the day. And if you're an RTT or a GT, you might come away with like fucking 2 wins. But you're going to have to really put the effort in to get more than 2 wins. No matter what tournament size it is. So yeah, Green Tide's a bit of a stat check, but seems like some people are able to check that stat. The Big Hunt, we see people turning up with it every week, but we're not seeing anyone get any particularly outstanding results. But hey, there's more people took it than Green Tide, so that's noteworthy. And then we have Dread Mob. A lot of people have pivoted to Dread Mob. In fact, it's the most popular faction. But if you notice, there's a lot of spread. We've got an 11, a 3, a 2, a 9, an 8, and a 2. There's a lot of spread here. So before we get Dread Mod, generally I think what Orcs are doing right now is they're experimenting. They've gone back to the mech shop. They're trying to find out what works for them post-nerf. Now, Dread Mob is something that I've seen a few people land on. Now, what's interesting is I actually had the opportunity to speak to a very experienced Orc player that I know, a guy called Darren. I've actually played against him a few times at Just Play, and you will have seen his really cool converted Orc army pop up on a number of after action reports, and we keep meaning to do a battle report together and everything as well. Now, Darren was using Dread Mob at the tournament this weekend, and he was really struggling. And he had an interesting list. There were a few. What do you call it? There's a few. He was like spamming big mechs, and he was spamming Death Dreads. and he had like some cool screening, like infant, like Gretchen and Commandos and stuff. Had a really interesting concept for the list. But I got chatting to him a little bit, and he just said, Dreadmob, it should work on paper, but it's just not clicking on the board. Now, this was, I think, his first tournament running Dreadmob, so it bears and it is sort of an anecdotal bit of evidence, but I trust Darren. Now, he's the kind of orc player that I'll keep plugging away until it works. He gets that winning combo. But right now, I think a lot of people are trying Dreadmob, but a lot of people are struggling to get the results, and that's reflected in what I've been experiencing, or who I've been that's been reflected in the people that I've genuinely spoken to myself, and seems to be reflected in these stats. So orcs are trying a few things out. Seems like Dreadmob right now is favoured in terms of popularity, but it's not quite favoured in terms of results. Next up, we have the Eldar. We'll get to those in a second. Godlike Poet. Got a guy in my local who runs mech guns, heavy Dreadmob, and it is murderous. Yeah, I mean, I think there's some real potential with it. It's just trying to bring it all together. Yeah, I'm sure there's lots of good individual combos, but as we know in the Guard, sometimes making a list of individual combos doesn't actually add up to a full list. But maybe mech guns is the way to go. I could definitely see that. It would make sense. Typically, Dreadmob is okay, but if you're not rolling hot, then it doesn't matter how good the strats are. Never hit anything. Yeah, that makes sense. I would love. Maybe it's one of the things where and I'm just talking up my ass right now. Maybe it's not a case of people haven't found the right balance, or Mad Larky, I think people haven't found the right balance. Maybe it's not a case of that, or maybe it is a case of that. Maybe it's a case of people are overthinking it. It's Dreadmob, right? Take 18 killer cans and 3 Death Dreads and as many mechs as you can. Like, has anyone actually tried Dreadmob as Dreadmob? Like, I know it sounds crazy, but I'm seeing loads of people saying, oh, you can try it on this unit, you can try it on that unit. Have we just tried running it as Dreadmob? I don't know. I'm not saying that would work. But if you're an orc player watching this right now, or you're an orc player that's watching this back later, or someone who's got a bit of experience, let us know. Why wouldn't you just go all in on the cans, on the mechs, on the dreads? I don't know. Maybe we're all trying to be a bit too clever about this, or maybe that's a shit idea. I could definitely. I'm literally throwing shit at the wall, seeing what sticks. So, Eldari, the knife-eared bastards. No change. No change. 48% win rate this week, in line with 47% last week. 4 people are able to go 4-1 with them. No one won any tournaments with them. Player numbers holding at a very normal level for a somewhat elite niche faction. A somewhat specialist faction, shall we say. Not a niche, a specialist faction. Eldar seem to have settled into a new groove. They will tear up your local RTT. They might go all the way at your local GT. And they'll still do a very, very respectably at majors and super majors. But they don't quite seem to have the spring in their step to go all the way at a super major or a GT, like a super major or major or big GT regularly. Moving on from Eldar, same shit, different week, guys, and you'll probably hear me say that for quite a while with Eldar until we see their codex come out, or we see any major changes in their meta. Tau. Interessant, as they say on the continent. Tau are starting to gain a little bit of momentum. 46% win rate, I think, is a little bit of a deception. A bit of a cayenne, as it were. 6 people 6 people went 4-1 with the faction, but no one was quite able to go all the way. That might be because Blood Angels are very good at the moment, and Blood Angels and Custodes will like run up to like Tau and just go and eat them all and kill them. I mean, I saw it was horrendous. I saw this Blood Angel guy at the tournament, at WTC tournament, just turn 1, took all 3 of his like jump pack Death Company units, every single one of them with a power fist, and just jump them behind like the mid board ruins. And then the Tau player was like, okay, I'm gonna come towards you. And the Blood Angel player was like, all right. And then turn 2, the Blood Angel player like just tabled him. Because like, what can you do when you've got like no screening? What can you do? You know, like Tau got a lot of guns, but if you're not careful, you just get eaten. And what was funny is the Dark Angel guy that I played, at the tournament, he said in his first round he was paired into Tau and with Deathwing Knights, and he went, I put all my knights in reserve. Turn 2, I deep struck them all down in the Tau's behind cover, sort of somewhat aggressively. Turn 3, I crushed him. Oh, yeah. So Tau are very, very, very good, but there's a couple of factions right now, like Blood Angels, like Dark Angels, which are somewhat in the ascendancy, which are kind of gatekeeping them a bit, but don't underestimate them. Don't underestimate them. They are very powerful. They've got a lot of punch, and we're starting to see that get picked up. You don't go 4-1. Your faction doesn't go 4-1 with 6 players unless it's got some spice, right? Right. Now, if we look here, the most surprising result for me is that I don't know if I say Kaon. There you go. Kaoyon. That's what we're gonna say it. So the most surprising result for me is Kaoyon has 54% win rate, and 3 people, like half the people that went 5-1, fucking did it. I've no idea how they're managing that. I mean, I guess it's not bad, right? Get a shitload of sustained hits. And I guess it's less susceptible to going first, right? If you're playing on a really terrain-heavy board and you have gone Monk Cat and you get first turn, it's like, well, there goes 33% of my detachment ability. I still think Monk Cat feels better. Kaoyon is sustained hits, right? And Monk Cat is lethal hits. But anyway, Monk Cat, certainly, Monk Cat and Retaliation cards are continuing to be very, very popular factions. Monk Cat with a 46% win rate, a little bit lower this time, but than the average of 49%, but 13 players took it. Retaliation Cadra, 43%, managed to get 2 people going 4-1, in line with its 42%, 14 people took it. 14 Tau players like to live dangerously. But it's not what's here which is really telling, it's what's not here, and what is conspicuously absent. The crew are dead. Crew are dead, boys. It's a shame, but it turns out that Crew Jail, actually, it's not a tactic. Oh, give all those crew a 5 up in blood and we'll say, doesn't mean diddly dick. And I want to say, let's have a look at the Chaos Space Marines. Whoa. So much cool shit in the Chaos Space Marine land. So overall, they've got like a 46% win rate. And that is in line with the average of 46%. But they had 39 players, which is a lot of players. 3 of those players went 4-1, and 1 of those players went all the way and won the tournament. Now, delving into the data, the Chaos Cult only had 2 players, but they did get a 58% win rate. Now, none of those guys were able to go 4-1. So, none of the guys were able to go X and 1. Oh, a minute. One guy went 4-2, and one guy went what looks like 3-2. So overall, they've got a 58% win rate. It's so cool seeing the Chaos Cult still have some potential. It seems like a lot of people aren't willing to get all of the models together that you need, but it seems, but you know, it still seems like there's a few mad lads out there that are getting some interesting results from it. So that's cool. Small sample size though. Pact Bound Zealots. This is essentially the updated version of the index attachment. What was kind of interesting is when the codex first came out, I was chatting to a Chaos player who'd been maining them for a little while, and he was like, I still think Pact Bound Zealot's the best one. He said, I know Renegade Raiders looks good, I know there's a few other ones that look good, but he was like, I think Pact Bound Zealot's the best one. Now, that guy is certainly vindicated, because this week, Pact Bound Zealots were actually able to win a tournament. Now, let's see what tournament they won. Was it? It was, to be fair, it was the smallest tournament of the weekend, 32 players. But hey, you know, the guy had to beat Custodes and Tau and Grey Knights, so there you go. He definitely had some stiff competition. We then had next we've got Renegade Raiders. Renegade Raiders remaining even after the pseudo, I should say, like it is even after the assault nerf, still remaining a very, very popular attachment. As someone who played into Renegade Raiders, I'm not surprised it's doing so well. It is so fast. It's so fast it can make your head spin. And the moment that you think that you've dealt with it, it throws another wave in. What the top Renegade Raiders lists are doing is they're mech'd up. Hashtag mech up, right? Hashtag mech up. Because what the best Renegade Raiders lists are doing is taking lots of 5-man squads and putting them inside transports, and then basically throwing out a wave of sort of 10 or 15, 2 or 3 5-man squads, which are they're almost like fire and forget missiles. So they throw one wave out and it just goes bam, and it just fucking deletes something, and then it dies. And the next turn they throw the next one out, bam, and it just fucking deletes something, and then it dies. And they can throw these waves out, or if they have good resource management, they can throw these waves out 5 turns. Like the list that I played, I think it was something crazy like 60. It was either 45 or like. It was either 45 or 50 Marines, just in the vast majority of them in transports, just throwing waves of these guys out, and it was brutal. It was the most damage. I think it was the most damage I took all weekend was to Chaos Renegade Raiders, and they had that was just these waves of fucking Marines flying out. So yeah, Renegade Raiders is very fast. It can hit like an absolute truck, and it's doing well because hashtag mech up. Soulforge Warp Pack. I thought that was broken as fuck when I saw it in the codex, but apparently people just aren't making it work. I think some of the abilities are all right in the Soulforge Warp Pack. I think the problem is maybe the units that those abilities go on. A lot of people seem to have been turned off demon engines, and as a result, I think it's not really working. Yeah, you can have a good ability, but having a dog shit data sheet, I guess it doesn't make up for it, having a good ability. Fellhammer Siege Host continuing to be awful. I'm so surprised. I'm so surprised. When I saw this, I was like, that's gotta be S tier, right? Gotta be. Because you get all the benefits of dark packs still, and yet you're like permanently -1 to wound, right? That's Fellhammer. Fellhammer Siege Host is if something shoots you that is stronger than your toughness, -1 to wound. And I was like, that's gonna be such a nice durability boost. That, across an entire army, that's so impactful. And then it's just not. Is it because... See, I thought Fellhammer Siege Host was Maz 1 to wound all the time. But I feel like maybe I misunderstood it and it's only -1 to wound at ranged. Is that right? Because if it's -1 to wound, only against ranged attacks, then that would explain why it is awful. Yeah. Yeah. That would explain it. Otherwise, I thought it'd be quite good. Deceptors, aka Alpha Legion. You know what? This result doesn't surprise me. As someone who's played a little bit of Deceptors, there's so many cool. The whole thing is situational. The whole thing. I really want to try. I really want to try Deceptors out at a tournament and just be like, I'm going to infiltrate every game without fail, regardless of whether it's a good idea or not. I'm going to infiltrate 90 guys onto the board. Every game. I don't give a fuck what you think. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to do it. Get wrecked, son. But the problem with Deceptors is just that it can be so hard to engineer the situations so that you can pop those cool stratagems, you can pop those cool enhancements, stuff like that. I guess it's all well and good getting infiltrate on a lot of stuff, but you don't actually get a damage boost, and you don't actually get a like a durability boost or anything like that. And so I guess Deceptors, it's got all of the sneaky, but it's got no real punch. Veterans of the Long War. Now, weirdly, a few weeks ago, this detachment won a tournament or something crazy, but it seems to have returned to normality, and no one's taken it, and no one's getting any decent results with it. Yeah. It was. I did suspect that was an anomalous result when it came in a month ago, and or whenever it was, and now it's Veterans of the Long War has been on a long decline since then. Overall, Chaos Space Marines are they've got some. I think they've got a couple of really strong detachments. I think they've got one fun memey one, and then the rest of them are a bit. Peh. Big F in the chat, boys. F in the chat. No Dread Talon detachment for I think another week in a row. Yeah, no one's fucking taking Dread Talons, man. F in the chat, boys. R.I.P. Warpforge, man. I bet he's we got. Has someone checked on Warpforge? Is he still okay? Oh man. Okay, we've next got after the Space Marines, we've got the Grey Knights. So Grey Knights hootling along, but I think they're going through a bit of an evolution at the moment. I saw a frankly horrific Grey Knight list, and it was at the tournament this weekend, and I had to do a double take when I saw this thing because it made me feel sick looking at it. Someone took a Grey Knights list, which was 6 Dread Knights, like 3 Grandmasters, 3 normal ones, a couple of strike squads, or a couple of small objective doing squads, and Canis Rex. That was the list. Ugh. 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 The GW put all the points up on Dread Knights, and apparently the Grey Knight community is like, we're going to go more into mech. We're going to go more Dread Knights, and now we're going to go Canis Rex as well. Oh, man. And that listed very well. That listed very well. So I don't know if that's where all the Grey Knights are pivoting to, but that was a list at a Shark Tank, and I think the team that had that list either came 4th or 3rd. They definitely came in the top half of the teams that were taking part in the tournament. So yeah, Grey Knights 49% in line with their average of 50%. Still seem like a faction that are able to fairly regularly go 4-1, but struggle to take the tournament win. Really healthy player numbers as well. But I would be just careful, because if that Grey Knights list turns out to be as spicy as it looks, if that Grey Knight list turns out to be that Grey Knight list could easily become like the new meta list for them. It's very spicy. I didn't want to face it. I don't want to face it. I have an entire round with lethal hits into it. Put it that way. Oh, lookaroo. Look what, I would say the cat dragged in. Look what the dog dragged in. I don't know what happened. But all I can say, I'm fucking grateful to see Space Wolves not in the top 3 for once. Jesus wept. Space Wolves having a bit of a bad week, coming in with a 50% win rate. I mean, 50% is still a really, really good win rate, but for Space Wolves, it's a bit of a low point. 3% down from its average of 53%. Pretty popular with 24 players. The big thing is that even though Stormlands is still the most popular, and even though Stormlands got the best results for the Space Wolves, we've actually seen a noteworthy number of players trying out other detachments. Now, it seems that the Champions of Rust detachment, now, it seems like we've had a few Space Wolf players, not people running Wolf Jail, but a few Space Wolf players try out their home detachment, and they're doing okay, 50% with that. Yeah, I'm actually really, really happy to see this. I want to tip my hat to all of those Space Wolf players who are running Champions of Rust. Unless they're running it in basically like pseudo Wolf Jail, in which case get fucked. But all those people that are actually just running Space Wolf armies in the Champions of Rust attachment, you get a nod of respect from me, because it's nice to see something other than Stormlands with your faction. Sadly, it seems like a lot of people who heard, oh, Gladius is good now, didn't realize that did not apply to Space Wolves, because Gladius and Space Wolves does not go together. Gladius and Dark Angels, chef's kiss. Gladius and Space Wolves, goatsy. So we've then got Thousand Suns. Thousand Suns. Let me take a moment, man. Oh, so good. So you guys know how I have been saying for quite a few weeks now, quite a few months now, since the beginning of the year, really. But I thought Thousand Suns might be the inheritors of the meta. Holy shit, boys. Holy shit. When I faced them, Magnus single-handedly wiped out 6 tanks and took a flank on his own. He's just that good. In my opinion, Magnus is the strongest Demon Primarch by far. It was a toss-up between him and Angron. It's not a toss-up for me anymore. Magnus is the strongest Demon Primarch. He flew around, and every turn he double doom bolted something to death, and then he zapped something to death with his magic stick, and then he charged in and cock slapped another tank with his magic stick again. He's very good. Also, Mutileth Vortex Beasts are ridiculously tanky, man. Oh, baby. It took a unit of Scions, a Chimera, and 2 Leman Russ Vanquishers to kill 1 Mutileth Vortex Beast. And that, we're talking like, you might say, oh, a Chimera, what's the big deal? Lethal hits, Hunter Killer Missiles, Heavy Bolters, like all shit that is actually good into these things. But yeah, Mutileth Vortex Beasts are good. Magnus is good. And overall, the faction feels like it's got a lot of like spiky damage. Like it could just be like, like you're sort of chugging along into it. You're like, oh, this is going okay, and then it just goes bam and it slaps you like fuck, and then you go back into it and you almost bounce. Yeah, do not underestimate Thousand Suns. I think they are the inheritors of the meta. I think they're a sleeper faction right now. I think it doesn't surprise me we're seeing a lot of people go 4-1 with them. What surprises me is we're not seeing people go 5-0 winning tournaments with them. That's the surprising thing. But they're definitely if a 1,000 Suns player with a bit of practice and a good list is almost guaranteed to walk to 4-1. They're very strong. Necrons. We've got 51% win rate, which seems pretty fair. We've got that in line with their average of 50%. Still, I think, are they the most popular faction? Yeah. Necrons are still the most popular faction. I guess enough people bought into them that they're like, fuck it, they're still good enough. Out of the 47, 27 people, well over half, continued to use Hypercrypt Legion. Hypercrypt Legion had a 54% win rate. Four people went 4-1 and one person went 5-0 and won a tournament. Let's see what size tournament that they won. We're going up. We're rolling up. Ooh, was it a biggie? Might have been a very biggie. Was it the biggie? It was the biggie. So Necrons with Hypercult were able to win a super major. So Necrons may have taken a few nerfs. They are down, but they are not out. Now, for me, the one that makes me most excited is Awakened Dynasty. Silvertide is back, baby! Yeah, Silvertide, chicka, yeah, fake ID, yeah. Silvertide is back, Awakened Dynasty is back, and these 9 people right here, I love you all. Canoptic Court seems to have really fallen out of favour, which is a bit of a shame. Once it was a contender, now it is just a loser. And Annihilation, I actually think Canoptic Court's a really cool detachment, just doesn't seem to be doing very well. Annihilation Legion guy found a friend and they both got filled in. And Obsidian's Phalanx, it might look great. It was one dude. One dude managed to go 4-1 with it. Well done to that dude, but it is a bit of an anomalous result. Okay. Imperial Knights attack. 52% win rate. 7 people going 4-1. 25 players. An average of 50% win rate. You know what this is, guys. Knights are back. Knights are the gatekeepers. Knights are the gatekeepers, man. They Knights are back. And they're not going to win a tournament. They're too much of a skew faction to win a tournament. They might win, they might win the occasional one here and there. Don't get me wrong, there's always a good run, right? But for the everyman on the street, they're not going to win a tournament. But for the everyman on the street, you're going to turn up with your Imperial Knights, and you will probably get a positive win-loss ratio. You're going to turn up and get a couple of wins. Absolutely, Knights are a gatekeeper faction again. Did you bring enough anti-tank? Yep, you may go past. Did you not bring enough anti-tank? Get fucked. That's basically what it is. I think that every single list that you guys build and that I build, when you finish building it, you need to take a step back and go, do I have enough to kill a knight in one turn? A medium knight in one turn? If the answer is yes, then it's a good list. If the answer is no, you go back to the drawing board and you rewrite that list. Because that is where it happens every edition, guys. It is the golden rule of Warhammer. It's the golden rule of list building. It has been true since these fucking guys became a standalone faction, and it is true today. Can you kill a knight in one turn? If you can, you've passed the stat check. If you haven't, you need to rewrite the list. It's that simple. Chaos Demons! Woo! Alright. Now, Chaos Demons, it is not same shit, different day. It is not. I have a hot take, hot from the front lines, hot off the presses. Corn meta incoming. Corn meta incoming. At the tournament that I was at, there were a number of Chaos Demon players. Every single one that I got a chance to chat to and look at their lists was running mono corn. They were running mono corn, man. Mixed demons absolutely still have a ton of play, but I played Chaos Demons in my last round of that tournament, and that guy had an Isaac had 20-0'd every opponent until he played into me. And even then, it was a very, very, very close game. A really good game. Okay, the reason why Khorne Demons are so good right now is because Bloodthirsters Bloodthirsters are like Be'lakor. You can deep strike with the 6 inches around them. They create their own shadow in the warp. And you know, guys, call the black ships. I'm a goddamn psycho. I know I say it. What was I saying about Chaos Demons a while ago? I said everyone's just taking Monster Mash. It's so one-dimensional. There's got to be something else out there. You know what? It turns out that little shit that a lot of people dismissed, that little shit that wasn't big monsters, actually really good. When I was chatting to Isaac, and I do consider him the best Demons player that I know, if not one of the best in the UK. He's like renowned as like the fucking demon guy. He said there was nothing in the game. There is not a single unit in the game that can stand up to a charge from a unit of Bloodletters. Not Blood Crushers, not Bloodhounds, whatever it was. Bloodletters. Your basic bitch Khorne Demon. He said, when I get these, he said, when I fully buff these up, they're like strength 6 with +1 to wound. So I'm wounding pretty much everything that I want to. Anything, I'm wounding like shit on like 2s, 3s, even like hard vehicles. I'm wounding them on like fucking 4s. And I'm AP like AP3, AP4, damage 3. It's like just kills everything. Just hoovers through it. That's just your basic ass Bloodletters. So, and also, there's a list. Be aware on the horizon. I've heard some chit, and dare I say chat. I've heard some fucking. I've heard some rumors. I've heard some. There's something in the air. Blood Crushers. Apparently, I don't know how many you can get. Maybe it's like 18 Blood Crushers or something. But I've heard Blood Crushers. Blood Crusher spam is a viable demon tactic. Be ready for it. All right. It's. I think it's on the horizon. Okay. Could be wrong. But I heard a lot of chatter around it from some very good players, from some very, very reliable sources. As any good Cardassian troll will tell you, they came from reliable sources. I've heard from my reliable sources that Blood Crushers are a unit on the ascendancy. Drukhari. Dark Elder. Okay, we need to talk about Dark Elder, right? Because, I mean, how many weeks is this now? How many weeks in a row is this Dark Elder with a greater than 50% win rate? Ever since Sky Splinter Assault came out, Dark Elder have just been good. You know what? I'm going to argue, there's not just been good. They've been great. When they were just Real Space Raiders, they were just getting just like shat on left, right, and center. But for what feels like 3 or 4 months, maybe it's not that long, but it feels like 3 or 4 months, they've just been just cruising 50, 51, 52, 53, 54% win rate. Yeah. I think Sky Splinter Assault is really, really potent. And I don't think you retain a 50+% win rate. And I don't think you have nearly a quarter of your players going 4-1 and have an average of a 56% win rate and have 25 players without being great. Let's bear this in mind. Dark Elder are traditionally a bit of a specialist faction. Traditionally, they've had, a good win rate, but like not being absolutely spammed by people, right? Not necessarily everyone's taken them. But every event that I say every event. The last couple of events that I've been to, you look around the room, there's always a Dark Elder player. There's always a Dark Elder player. So Drukhari, I think, are right now, they're a bit of a sleeper faction. I think everyone's just sort of got institutionalized to seeing, 54% win rate, 50% win rate. It's been 50 plus for a while. Through all the turbulent changes, through the ups and the downs, this thing has stayed solid at 50 plus. One to watch. Do I think they're a meta inheritor? I'm not sure about that. Do I think that they are an army which you can you can go 3 and 2, 4 and 1 with on the reg. Yeah. Okay. So we've got the Adeptus Custodes. Yes. Al Coffin over on Twitch is like, it's my time to shine, baby. Every goddamn time. Every goddamn time the Custodes have just a little bit of play. Just a little bit of power. Do you know what happens? To the moon, baby! Diamond hands! Yeah! Diamond hands, baby! Banana strong together. Addition in. Addition out. Balanced data slate in. Balanced data slate out. Meta in. Meta out. The Custodes have proven time and time again. Love them or hate them. The Custodes have proven time and time again that the moment that they have an opportunity, they will take that opportunity. You gotta begrudgingly respect that. You gotta begrudgingly respect it. Now, there's a few really positive things here, and there's a couple of surprising things here for me. So, firstly, positives. Let's start off with the positive stuff, but from the Custodes' perspective. So we've got a 54% win rate, which is strong. We've had 6 people go 4 and 1, which is strong, and we've had 0 people actually win a tournament Custodes. This is in line with, but slightly above their average of 52%. So getting into, and we'll get into the second bit in a moment. Looking at the breakdown of this, its Shield host seems to be doing the bulk of the work with the higher end of the faction of the detachment win rate. And getting all of the people that went 4 and 1. I think what this shows, this bit right here, sort of shows, is that Custodes are a gatekeeper, a bit like Imperial Knights. You have to, when you're building a list, you have to take into account: am I going to encounter Custodes, and do I have an answer for Custodes? And you know what, Custodes is a faction that traditionally, as Guard, I've really struggled into. You know, there was, for a time, I think at the end of 9th edition with the very good Guard Codex, Custodes weren't such a problem for us. But, 8th, for a lot of 8th edition, those Custodes bikers were a nightmare. I used to face 18 of them regularly. That might sound like a joke to Custodes players now, but it's true. They had a viable build, and they spammed that viable build. They had something similar in 9th edition, with like the Caladius tanks. And now in 10th edition, we're seeing, Custodes Wardens doing very good once again. And if I could say if there was one unit, if someone said to me, Morgan, I'm thinking of getting Custodes, what's the one unit that you think I should consider? I would say Wardens. I cannot tell you a time when Wardens have been bad. Okay, I'm talking like we're going on like half a decade at this point. We're going on 5-ish years where Wardens have been like just fucking awesome. All right, so Wardens are really, really strong, and they're strong. As far as I'm aware, they're strong now. Al Coffin, correct me if I've got the wrong end of the stick there. Now, what is surprising here is the player numbers. 24 is not that many. Like, it's fine. It's respectable. It's more than what the Black Templars have got, which are next in line. But you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Normally, when Custodes have an in, that player their player numbers go from like a dozen, a couple of dozen. They just explode like next week, 80 people with Custodes, because everyone and their mum has a Custodes army on the shelf. And so the moment that they're like somewhat viable, what happens is everyone just goes, oh, I'll take those off the shelf and just uses them. And anyone who was thinking about getting into competitive play is like, well, I'll just get a Custodes army because I can build and paint 30 Custodes in a weekend, and that gives me an actually viable list. So seeing how good this is, I have to say I am surprised at how normal this is. If Custodes can maintain this, especially with Shield Host, this frankly more than respectable, annoyingly good win rate. I would expect this to go up. The one thing that might be holding them back is this. A lot of competitive players won't be satisfied with 4-1 or 3-2. Maybe the only thing that might keep the Custodians from a population boom is if we don't see any potential to win tournaments with them. Like, it's all well and good being the gatekeeper, but sometimes you want the gold, right? I mean, that's what Custodians are made out of. I think this will go up, but I wouldn't be surprised. But if it doesn't, I think it's the fact that they can't win a tournament with them that might hold them back slightly. All right, let's get to the top 5, boys. Bang, bang, bang. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've got Black Templars. So about a week ago, Black Templars were looking like they weren't doing so hot, but they seem to have recovered this week. 54% win rate and 6 people going 4-1 is really, really good. It's a big step up from the 45% win rate that we saw last week. Now, this might be, not last week, on average. Now, this might be a case of, it might just be a case of it being a good week. That's the way I put it. It might be a case of it being a good week. Or it might be that Black Templars are starting to find some secret sauce. Now, what's interesting is there's a relatively small number of Black Templar players, but that's okay for them. That's pretty normal for their faction. We've not seen them like blow up into ridiculous numbers. Looking at what they've got here, though, one guy's done very well with the Ironstorm. I do want to say that Ironstorm is still good for Black Templars, but it is a very small sample size. But what seems to be really working for them is the Gladius. Now, 3 players is, again, a pretty small sample size, but 3 players, every single one of which that went 4-1, giving it a 77% win rate. 4-1 or 5-1. I mean, bear that in mind. Only 3 people took Black Templars in Gladius, and every single one of them went 4-1. It's a small sample size, but it's an incredible sample size. Wow. Now, interestingly, it seems like the vast majority of Black Templar players are still sticking with Righteous Crusaders. 11 out of 15 people went for that, but only 2 of them were able to go 4-1. What I think we're basically seeing here is Black Templar players are still very much sticking to Righteous Crusaders. People who are trying to take Black Templars competitively have pivoted to Gladius and are seeing some strong results. Moving on to Sisters of Battle. Oh, the fucking bugging, man. Sisters of Battle, so strong right now. 55% win rate. 9 people. 9 people. That's gotta be, I would say some kind of record, but you see the Blood Angels in a moment. 9 people going 4-1 with them. 32 player numbers. That's a lot of Sisters players. That's a hell of a lot. They've been cruising around with sort of high teens, low 20s for a few weeks, and getting up to 32 people. People are jumping on the Sisters hype train, and it's not surprising why. Now, we've got out of all those players, we've got a few people. We've got like one dude tried Penitent Host, one dude. It's Bringers of the Flame. It's Bringers of the Flame. Every single person who got outside of anomalous results, every single person that got good results came in with motherfucking Bringers of the Flame. It's so strong. I think your whole army gets Assault, and then every weapon with Assault within 12 inches gets like +1 strength or something insane. Oh, yeah. It's like Shield Host Custodians. It's so obviously better, and it's like it's not even really a debate. Bringers of the Flame, Sisters of Battle are the inheritors of the meta, even after the nerfs. Units to watch out for: Paragon Warsuits. Oh my god, I witnessed these things go through anything they went near. Shooting, combat, whatever they went for fucking died. I think it's a combination of the Paragons plus the Bringers of Flame, plus I think Morven Vile being thrown in there as well. That is the if you ever fight Sisters and you see Paragon war suits, be afraid. Be very afraid. And if you get the opportunity to take them out, it's going to be tough, but if you get the opportunity to take them out, you've got to take that opportunity. 100%. Then we've got a surprise. Ooh, what is this? What is this? My God. Look at this. Getting onto the podium. Who would have believed it? A couple of weeks ago, no one could have predicted this. But Admech with a 57% win rate. 8 people going X and 1. One person winning a tournament with such a glow up over the average of 51% win rate. And what is this? 22 Admech players. 22 motherfucking Admech players. You love to see it. Ironically, considering how much these guys hate nature, but nature is healing. The Admech are healing. They are repairing. They are the manufactorums are open for business, and they are loving it. The only, I would say, fly in the ointment is it doesn't seem like much has really changed in terms of the Admech meta. I'm sure there are some fine details and there are some specific units that are now glowing up and all that kind of good stuff. Of course. But what I mean by there's not much change is it's still all about that Skitarii Hunter cohort. It has been from the beginning of this codex. Skitarii Hunter cohort is the way to go, man. With a terrifying 63% win rate. The vast majority of the good results and the tournament win coming with this attachment, and the majority of the players and the majority of the win rate, just the average win rate, just everything. Admech on the up and up. And between Admech and Sisters of Battle, between Admech Skitarii and Sisters of Battle brings the flame, there is some truly mad damage output out there right now. Yeah, some truly terrifying shooting. I mean, Sisters of Battle, not only does it bring the flame, it's the miracle dice, right? If it just, I know I'm flipping between the two, but just going back to this for a second, I think if there's one takeaway we can have from Sisters and Eldar, it's that in a game of dice, giving one faction the ability to pick the result they want, too strong. That shit needs to go. It's guts to go. It's clear it's been... In fact, how many weeks do we have to endure people just picking sixes out of dice before we realise that it's not a mechanic that's good for the health of the game? Like lethal hits, not a good mechanic that's good for the game. It's not a mechanic that's good for the game. It's good for power. It can give you a big power boost. It's not good for the health of the game. It's not a good mechanic. Okay, so now we get to the final two, and my 10th edition's a shooting meta, my giddy aunt. The two top factions are Blood Angels and World Eaters. Fucking hell, man. Well, 40k is normally a shooting meta. Not today. Not today. World Eaters on the rise. In the face of the Custodes. That's the cool thing. Normally, Custodes absolutely dunk on World Eaters, but in the face of their nemesis in Ascendancy, the World Eaters are like, fuck off, Golden Boy. It's our time. Gold is so last year. Red is in. 2024 is the summer. 2024 is the summer of red. The World Eaters and Blood Angels. Red is in vogue. And with Admech, between all of the factions in the top 3, their primary colour scheme, their famous, their post-child colour scheme, red. Red ones not only go faster, apparently, they also win fucking games. So World Eaters coming in, 60% win rate, eye-watering that. 9 people doing well, and the most important thing is we're looking at tournament wins, something that World Eaters have kind of been struggling with. Normally they don't. Normally they sort of go 4-1 but get blown off the table one game. No, not this week. Not this week. World Eaters not only were taking 4-1s, taking skulls, but they were taking trophies. They've got 55% average and 35 players. And World Eaters are a really simple army to... I'm not surprised that we're seeing an explosion of World Eater player numbers. You've got like 4 data sheets you need to get your head around. And they're like... World Eaters are like the custodians of chaos. Your colour scheme's a piece of piss. You don't need that many of them. You don't need... It's not like they're not as few in number as custodians, but you don't need that many of them if you go down like 8-bound and Angron. And they're very simple to pilot. See enemy, charge enemy, twat enemy. That's World Eaters. Then we get to the big boys. The inheritors of the meta. Blood Angels. Man. At the tournament I was at this weekend, I must have seen a dozen Blood Angel players. They were everywhere. Everywhere. I think my team encountered Blood Angels 3 out of 5 rounds. And we had a Blood Angels player on our team. My team was very, very competitive. I wasn't that competitive. I was being carried by the rest of my teammates, but all the people on my team were a big deal. And the Blood Angels guy on our team did very, very well. Absolutely fucking smashed it. And his list was... I'm trying to remember what it was. It was basically 4 bricks of jump pack infantry with... That was it. 4 bricks of jump packed infantry. The number one unit, the unit that he said was his bread and butter, was the Death Company. Every single Death Company gets a Power Fist and an Inferno Pistol. Fucking wild, man. And that's the problem with free war gear. When every Blood Angels player is running 3 units of Death Company and 30 Power Fists and 30 Inferno Pistols, maybe it's time we go back to granular points, guys. Oh, it's so dumb. But that's what it is, man. It's all about the Mayo Nation 88. I wasn't competitive. I mean, I weren't defeated, but I wasn't competitive. I got carried by my team. I fucking I told you I got some very good matchups. Compliments of my captain. Yeah. Dustin Pollard, Blood Angels are gonna cry red tears when they lose their firstborn. Yeah, but here's to see what happens. I don't think they're gonna get. They can't get rid of. I don't think they'll get rid of firstborn. You know, I mean, they will get rid of firstborn, but I think they will and they won't. I think you'll see things like tactical marines go away. I think you'll see the rhino stick around. I think you'll see things like we have seen, like assault marines go away. But I think unique units like Death Company, Sanguinary Guard will stick around. The big question is, like with Grey Knights, because Grey Knights don't have any Primaris stuff. What I think we'll probably see with Grey Knights is they don't say they've been Primarised. They just there'll be a range refresh on the Grey Knights, won't there? And they'll all go true scale. That'll be it. They'll go from derpy old proportions to new chunky proportions. And the reason I think this is, look at Terminators. They didn't call them Primaris Terminators. They just called them Terminators. Yeah. So yeah, but Blood Angels, mate. Blood Angels, great. It's all about the jump pack infantry. It's all about the jump pack infantry. Every good list has 3 or 4 big bricks of absolutely lethal close combat with jump packs, And you can see, and they're very popular. They're doing so well right now. 33 players, really, really good numbers. Pretty much everyone running Sons of Sanguinius. Some people trying to make Gladius Task Force be a thing, and they've got some half-decent results from it as well. But it's, yeah. Blood Angels, Sons of Sanguinius, Jump Packs, Death Company. And that's cool. And you know what? I don't even feel mad that Blood Angels are at the top. I'm not like, wow, these guys are broken. I need to be reined in. Guys, if Blood Angel players are being rewarded for taking Jump Packs and taking Death Company, then as far as I'm concerned, that's okay. Let them have their fun. Now, we don't want to be having the same conversation a year later, because that's when it has become a problem. It's going to become boring. It's going to become oppressive. But, you know, for this first 3 months of Pride Exodus, you know, it's all right. And maybe it'll get reined in sooner than that. That's all right. But Blood Angels are really strong right now. And the thing is, it's one of those play styles that I do think there is potential to play around. I mean, as a guard player, I feel like if the Blood Angels want to take a lot of jumpy melee stuff, I'm going to have to take a lot of screening, aren't I? And it's one thing that I think is something that a lot of factions tend to forget about, is taking dat screening. And I think if Blood Angels and World Eaters continue to be in the ascendancy or be on top, people are just going to have to learn to have some cheap sacrificial shit that can get eaten first before you then blow them off the table. And that, my little chickadees, is another week in the meta, in the competitive meta of Warhammer 40k. And that concludes my TED Talk on toy soldiers. Everyone else, thank you for support, thank you for patience. Hope you've enjoyed the stream, and as always, see you guys next time. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian Glory Hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing. Truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full time without the incredible and generous support of my members. So thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Alex Dengal, Bonbon Vert, Lord Pryor, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, Try Again Bragg, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Barney. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.